We are back and powered by Upper Deck, your source of e-cards, found at upperdeckepack.com. We're now going to turn the page and speak with Chris Pierce. He's a trainer and skills coach in hockey with Outside Edge Hockey. Chris, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, Chris, we want to get into a little bit of the topics of developing athletes because it's something that, comes up in hockey a lot. They talk about, we're developing our prospects, or we're developing our players at the junior level or at the college level. And then, you wonder, okay, wait a minute, what are they exactly doing? What do they mean by development? Is it simply just coaching, or are there other aspects involved in the developmental process? And because, you at Outside Edge deal with a variety of different age groups, can you talk a little bit about the different stages within the age groups that, every group that you have to come into contact with, you sort of have to change some of the strategies and how you can get them to the next stage and on to the next stage, because also each individual is different as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing, I guess, that comes to mind when kind of thinking of the development of any athlete is just the fact that each athlete is different. So regardless of their age or potentially their skill level, you really have to look at each athlete and sort of make a determination on what they're ready for, what do they need. And I mean, in the case of youth, just to kind of put the reminder out there, especially for parents who are navigating, is that, the enjoyment of the sport is should be the primary factor. Is the development they're doing helping them enjoy the sport more, or is it the type of thing where, some people are getting ahead of themselves and kind of thinking that they're developing their kid to go get a college scholarship or to go play pro or whatever the case. So they kind of sometimes get way ahead of the game and they're not really thinking of what the primary focus should be at any given level. So I guess the first thing for me is kind of looking at the level, looking at where any given athlete is currently, what how skilled are they, what level are they playing at, and what are the goals that are appropriate at that age level. And then, when you start breaking it down, as a strength coach, we have our gym here. We do a lot of, athletic development for players of all ranges, whether they're, it could be a Pee-wee kid who's trying to get a little bit stronger and make that Pee-wee AAA team, or it could be one of our junior players, major junior guy trying to make that jump into pro or heading off to the combine or whatever the case. So you're always kind of looking at what the next step is for them. But at the same time, like I say, with the younger kids, I think it's really important to focus on where they are now and not always be, the goal is to help them to enjoy what they're doing now as opposed to necessarily always, what's next, because I think that kind of sets up a little bit for failure when, parents are putting that pressure on their kids of, the next step as opposed to enjoying the step that they're currently on. So I think that's an important aspect of it that maybe is overlooked sometimes. And I guess just an example of that, this was probably a really good success story here in our gym, but we had a Pee-wee kid come to us last year and wanted to start doing some training. And I knew the family, so I knew that it was a good family, very realistic, good goals, and just looking to kind of do a little bit more. They had some extra time, wanted to do some extra athletic sort of development. And the beauty of it was he came in, he started in the gym. It was his first time really doing any kind of organized training, anything that actually had a plan to it. And what happened was that right away I could see a few challenges that if he could overcome and just kind of get a little bit more comfortable in his athletic stance and moving out of that stance as opposed to kind of using compensations, which our athletes are typically very good at. He'd be a better hockey player, kind of be something that could quickly translate into something that you could see on the ice. And it was literally probably 4 weeks in, his dad called me and he said, "You know what?" He said, "I can't believe this," but he said, I can't tell you the difference in my kid. He's busting through the D now. He's protecting pucks going to the net. He's getting all these chances and just kind of changing the way that he played entirely. But for me, the biggest thing about it was that he actually enjoyed the process of getting a little bit stronger and getting a little bit more confident. And on top of that, he had a really good result out of it. So I think that that's sort of the the ultimate thing is that, the athlete enjoys what they're doing. They're actually putting the time in for the enjoyment of doing, whether it's strength training in the gym or, playing 3-on-3 hockey, or if they're, practicing skills on ice, whatever the case, that especially at those younger ages, that they're having that enjoyment level right now and not always focused on, I'm doing this because there's some end goal in it. So I think that's the biggest thing to kind of keep in mind, and just look at each player and where they are in their sort of development and progression levels. So,
Chris, I went away to basketball camp, and it certainly, and there was a famous college coach there, and I felt like when I got back, I was stronger mentally. I know Shane is feeling the effects of that every show, but all kidding aside, I did feel better mentally, and maybe you could talk about that side of it, because we always think about the physical side first, but the mental side's big.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, I can tell, Shane, you're definitely benefiting from having Russ around. I can feel the effect right now myself.
My back hurts.
It's so true though, and I know last time that I was on, we talked a lot about the mental aspects, and I mean, it's one of those things again. Like for me, you got to look at each athlete and kind of decide, make a determination on mentally, where is this athlete? Are they playing, say, Pee Wee B hockey, and they're having fun with it, but they're not really ready to take those next steps and get really mentally engaged in all aspects? Or are they playing, maybe they're playing major midget, and they're kind of coming up to their draft year, and they're a prospect for the Quebec League or whichever league that they're potentially going to go into. So you start looking at them, and then the whole thing is mentally, where are these kids? Are they in a state where, they're able to get mentally engaged in the process and actually put their best effort out there, whether they're in the gym, whether they're on the ice, maybe they're playing another sport. There's still a lot of the kids that we deal with around here that, even at the bantam and midget levels, they're still trying to kind of play lacrosse in the off season or play soccer, whatever the case. So, how much effort are they able to put forth, and is it type of situation where they need some coaching in that area to kind of make progression? Are they willing to put the effort in mentally to make those progressions? So it's you pointed out, Russ, like being around the right coach, I think can really make a huge push in that, whether it's your coach that's coaching you on ice, or somebody in the gym, or any given camp that you go to. I think that there's definitely, huge opportunities there on the mental side to make gains that you can't make the gains if you don't have that aspect going for you. So it's super important, and I think it's definitely still under developed, but hopefully something that people are catching on to and putting more effort into.
Chris, last question before we let you go. How beneficial it is to the parents? Because sometimes you don't gauge your own children very well of where they are and what they're doing and what they're capable of, and you need an outside perspective and sometimes to remind parents, hey, remember this is supposed to be about fun, and if they don't progress to another level, they don't progress to another level. It's the child has some decisions in that as well, not just the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like for me, I kind of look at it both ways. When I first got into coaching, I wasn't a parent, and I got into coaching because I love hockey and I love sports, and I wanted to pursue that as something more than just a hobby. So I continued to work at it until it became my full-time career. But now I do have kids, of course, so I can see it through a parent's eyes as well now. So I kind of can see both sides of that. But for me, when I try to talk to the parents that are involved with our programs, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot. My business partner, Carrie Duggan, she puts a lot into that as well, of making sure that not just the player that's on the ice with us, but their family enjoys the experience of whether, we go away to a tournament or, siblings that come into our gym or whatever the case, that there's always things for them that make the experience good as well. And I mean, the thing that I think parents need to do is I think they need to be realistic about their child and kind of look at what are we getting out of this. Like, the end of the day, hopefully you're in it for the right reasons, and that, you know, your kids learning things like actually listening to their coach, for instance. Like, number one thing, you know, did you learn anything today? That's the type of question that I would ask my kid, and that's what I would encourage other parents to ask. Did you learn anything today? You know, and what did you learn? That's great. You know, were you a good teammate today? Did you put your best effort in today? Like, those are the important things that, especially at those younger levels, when you're, you know, when it's major, junior, and you're trying to help a guy get to pro, it might be a little different because obviously the stakes are a lot higher. But at those lower levels, very, very important for parents to keep things in perspective. And even one of the questions I find comes up a lot is you know, should we, for instance, play spring hockey, or should we just hang up the skates, or, you know, should we do an off-ice program, or, you know, is that too much, and so on and so forth. And I think the answer for that is very different for every family. I think that there's not like a one-size-fits-all. You have to, you know, you have to play spring hockey. You have to be on the ice 3 days a week in the summer. You have to, you know, be in a particular camp in the winter, whatever the case. I think it's really different for everyone. I think that obviously multi-sport has a lot of benefits, so that, you know, that's something I think people should look at. Is there a way that, you know, we can participate in hockey and maybe find some other activity or sport that, you know, coincides with it and works well with it? You know, is there an opportunity to do some athletic training with a knowledgeable trainer in your area? That can always be a nice enhancement, or something a little different than just going on the ice, and give them the opportunity to do some different athletic skills. But at the end of the day, for the parent, they got to think, why are we doing this? And hopefully it's for the right reasons, that it's making your kid a better person and helping them to keep an active lifestyle and, you know, enjoy being around other people. And that's, at the end of the day, you know, a small percentage of the kids at any given level are going to move up and get to the next level. And that's what they have to remember, is that this isn't like a job for their kid. It's something that they need to enjoy, and hopefully that they'll build a good work ethic and good mental habits and physical habits that, you know, for some kids will lead to more. But very, very important, I think, for parents to be realistic about where their own kid is at any given moment.
Well, Chris, we want to thank you very much for coming on our show. We really appreciate the insight. Look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's Chris Pierce, hockey development coach for Outside Edge Hockey. We'll be back right after these important messages.